Hey there, you're listening to the Scale to Sell podcast, the business owner's podcast to grow and exit your business, where we share with entrepreneurs like you the tactical and practical things you can do so you can win at work and life. I'm Adam Burton, part of the father-son duo behind the Scale to Sell podcast, and I, along with my dad, Steve, and the rest of our exit team are on a mission to help business owners like you get the clarity they need to grow and exit their business successfully. Now, before we get into the episode, I wanted to let you know about a special opportunity just for our listeners. Knowing the value of your business and what you can get from it is crucial to your planning. Whether you're looking to scale or you're looking to exit in the short term, this is an important step in knowing what to do and knowing where to begin. If you're interested in having a free estimate of value done by one of the most credentialed people in the M&A industry, go to scaletosell.com/discovery. That's scaletosell.com/discovery, or click the link in the show notes below to book your free call and request a valuation of your business. Again, scaletosell.com/discovery for that free valuation of your business. Time to get started. This is episode 18, 5 ways to retain top talent. So Steve, I don't know that there's a question that we get asked more or a problem that business owners bring when we have that first discovery call conversation that doesn't in some way involve the issue of employee retention, of finding and keeping the right people in the right seats for your business. It's crucial, and it's a tough job market out there right now.
It is, whether it's a factor of COVID, I think it's been brewing for years, but COVID changed a lot of things around, and people's willingness to, sometimes you wonder how people are making it. You hear about inflation and all right now. But yes, finding and recruiting every industry, whether you're a restaurant, maybe you're a plumbing and heating company, maybe you're an airline. I've seen it and hear it all the time. You've heard it all the time too. Well, we're slow today because somebody didn't show up or whatever it might be. And so it is an interesting dynamic that we have out there, but there are ways to fix that. It's not just about compensation. That's part of it. Of course, people got to be paid a decent wage, but some cases, Adam, they're looking for more than just money.
Absolutely. And we see that, getting to the why of this, and we'll get into some of these reasons and the ways to retain top talent in just a second. But we see that demonstrated, what you were just talking about, in the idea, the current trend of quiet quitting, so to speak. Like I'm going to do the least amount possible. I'm not going to try to, overdo it. I'm just going to sit back and see how long it takes for them to realize that I'm not really doing my job. That type of mentality where it's not working together as a team, on purpose, energetic, enthusiastic about the work that they're doing. It's like, what can I do the least amount, the lowest bar that is set? How can I just barely cross that? You see that as one of the common trends of what business owners are dealing with when it comes to finding, attracting, and really retaining people that are wanting to be there, that want to be a part of the mission that you're on as a part of your company, and having the people that you need to actually grow and do what you're wanting to do, reach the goals that you're trying to create and attain. It requires the right teams. And that's a major challenge right now.
I'm in the baby boomer generation, and my parents, me, whatever, we were taught to study hard, work hard, and do whatever you had to do to support your family. If that involved working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, you did what you had to do. And some people still do that. But unfortunately right now, people are wanting more work-life balance. You hear that a lot, right?
And sometimes I think it's more life balance than work balance.
There is that. We hear that. We see that one too. But, we went through this in previous podcasts where, typically you're going to find 20% of your employees, whether you got 10 employees, 100 employees, 1,000 employees, 20% of them are going to be passionate about what they do. They're part of the team. They're bought into your strategy. That 20%. The next 70% are the people that will show up, get the work done, go home and whatever. And then there's that bottom 10%. that you need to probably get rid of, but they're a body right now, so you keep them around. But how do you do that? How do you attract all the top 20 and or the mid 70%, the worker bee, so to speak, in order to get it done well? There are ways to get it done. You know, in my own situation, I don't lose employees. It's not that I overpay them. I feel like I pay a fair wage. I try to do other things there. Sometimes it's the other things, not just the compensation, Adam.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about 5 ways to retain top talent. And the first one that we're going to get to, actually the first few that we're going to get to, aren't really money related. So kind of emphasizing that point, and then we'll get to some of the other incentives. Definitely stick around to number 5, because I think for a lot of business owners, that could be a game changer for keeping those key people in place. But number 1, clear mission and meaningful work. This is something that we see, especially with younger generations. They want to feel like they are a part of something bigger than themselves, and they want to know how their work connects to that overall mission. They want to feel like they're making a difference in whatever aspect of work that they're a part of. And when you can communicate what it is that you're trying to do and how you as a team are achieving it, it really brings people along in a way that just showing up and sitting down at the desk or sitting in a meeting at this time just doesn't do, without that connection of what they're doing with what the ultimate goals are.
You know, we're helping people, our own business as a financial advisor. I don't promise people to get the biggest rate of return. We work with anybody that walks in the door. Our mission is to help people with their money. And my team has bought into that. They can see it in the communications we have with people, and try to, where we're trying to help them create wealth and then retain wealth and then hand it off to the next generation. So having that passion, they know I'm passionate about things in our radio shows, our workshops, our podcast, and just meeting with clients. So they're bought in. My team, is this current team that I've had for quite a while now, is bought into that mission. And they will go above and beyond, and they will do what we need them to say, but we also reward them with other things that we'll talk about here in just a minute. So that passion, what is your vision? They have to be bought into your vision. Whether you're a plumbing and heating company, they want to know it impacts. If your water heater goes out, it impacts your attitude, your client's attitude right there. If your heater is not working, if your air conditioner is not working, it has an impact. So you are having an impact. And what is your mission? There to help people out. So whatever your industry is, I'm sure you could feel the same way.
Well, and one of the things, you actually just did this morning in our staff meeting that we had, where a client came to us and had written a response, and we won't obviously say what those things are, but it was a very meaningful response that showed from the words that she shared, the message that she was trying to communicate to us about how we made her feel, and how we cared for her and her family situation and what they were dealing with and what's going on, and how we went about trying to best serve their interests. And it was one of those moments where, as all of us on the staff were on part of that meeting and hearing what was going on, and we had been talking about, you know, what's up ahead this week and the different tasks and things we had to do, it connected what we're doing with why we're doing it. And it really does flip the script in the minds of people, that they're not just doing these daily tasks. They're not just going through their routines. It is about the people that you're serving and how you're able to come alongside them and do something that is going to impact their lives.
This was health related.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor. It was health related. All right. And something I did, a book I gave them that would encourage that. They sent me a note back. I didn't even remember. I remember I gave them the book, but it made a big difference in their impact. And she said that they both, her and her husband, have benefited from it. So is our mission to help people. Sometimes when it doesn't put money in our pocket, when you care about your clients, even your prospects, it is part of that vision, and people buy into that and helps you retain employees, no doubt about it.
It just reminds me that work can be really meaningful. So Steve, you and I were both Christians. When we look at how God created us to be, we saw from the very beginning that there was an aspect of work and there was benefit and meaning to it. And we see that when we have these opportunities to go beyond just the transaction of what we're doing, of what it takes to financially grow the company, and we connect with the people that we're serving, and the team gets to see that. It's so important. It hit home for me today when you were talking about that, of how big that is. And so bring the team along for the mission. Let them see those aspects of the company where you're making a difference in people's lives, because it reminds you why you're doing what you're doing.
If you're a roofer, you'll come across somebody that's going through a situation, sometimes good, a marriage. One of my clients, only child just got married. It impacts me. I like that. I responded to videos on social media about that. It is important to me to see people happy, to make their life better. In whatever industry you're in, you can carry those same strategies over as part of your vision to be a holistic, whatever your business is.
Yeah. So number one, clear mission and meaningful work, tying what they do with why the company exists, what you're trying to accomplish there. Number two, understand your employees. I think this is an easy one to overlook because you're so busy on the day-to-day just trying to get the things done that you need to do. But taking the time to understand your employees, what they're going through, obviously, in their lives, and truly caring about them, right? It's kind of like the old saying, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care type concept. But there's an opportunity there to listen to your employees, to understand what motivates them, what interests them, maybe even how that could come into play in terms of incentives or other things that we'll talk about in a little bit. But listening to your employees can be really beneficial in a number of ways.
If they're taking advantage of you, but right now, flex schedules with people with hectic lives, sometimes children that they have to take care of, and being flexible and being able to work from home when it makes sense to, and you can afford them that opportunity. And so it is knowing that employee. And I found that, I remember one employee that's no longer with us, but took advantage of the situation. But most of them, if they bought into your vision and you treat them with respect and you're flexible on their lives and where they're at with their lives, and within reason, helping them out with that flexible schedule, that being flexible, not rigid. Back in the day, your kids are sick or whatever, deal with it, take some time. If you got sick leave, take some time or take some time off. But now this is a different environment that we're living in right now. You have to be more flexible than you were in the past.
Well, and technology has enabled us to be able to have those things, to stay connected with our teammates, even when they're at different locations and working remotely and things like that. And there's ways to maintain accountability and still giving them the opportunity for trust. I was just reading a book. It's actually The Boys in the Boat. So not a business book per se, but I took a lot of business lessons from it that we'll be sharing in a future Business Builder Thursday email. But one of the things that made a difference in that situation, it's the story about the rowing team from the 1936 Olympics. And they were all really skilled rowers. And they had incredible talent, and they had done really well in other races. But when it came time for the big ones leading up to qualifying for the Olympics, they struggled. And it was looking like they were going to miss their shot at the Olympics. And it came down to their ability to trust the teammates around them to be able to do what they needed to do in order to accomplish the goals. And it was like a switch flipping in their minds. When they were able to trust what was going on and it was backed up by the work that was being produced, they were able to accomplish some pretty incredible things. And I think that's a good analogy for what we see here. We've got technology, we've got accountability, we've got ways to listen and be flexible with things. I think it's a great opportunity. That's a good point that you brought up, Steve. Number 3, company culture. This is one that I think often gets overlooked. It's one of the intangibles that we've talked about, the intangible capital of your business that oftentimes business owners don't think about when it comes to valuing your business. But how your company relates to one another, how your teams work, and the style, the tone of how you operate together is a big deal. How can culture impact the employee's desire to stay or not stay?
Well, they don't dread showing up on Monday, first, last one in the door, first one out of the parking lot. They just dread being there. That culture is something that ties into the vision it ties into some of the other things that we were talking about, being flexible and just being a good place to work at, that they want to be there, be part of something. So the culture, it just, I don't know, it was wrapped up into so many things. Ours is a family business, and we try to treat non-family members as family members as much as possible, and that's part of our culture, and perhaps it is yours as well. Your culture might be trying to make sure they have a track to run on, where they know the steps to, hey, if I do this, I can step up to the next level. I can become a supervisor or a vice president or whatever else it might be. And just the culture of caring. The culture of caring means a lot right there, whatever that, and it means a lot of different things, in my opinion.
Yeah. And a lot of it comes back to you as the leader and the example that you set of what's expected, of how you interact with one another. Do you value people's opinions? Do you listen and get feedback and provide continuous feedback in a way that's helpful, and can help everyone reach their goals? I think of a company that we used to work with, and it changed hands, right? We loved the company culture. I think you'll know which one I'm talking about. And it was a fun place to be. Like, you could tell they gave everyone a nickname, and you knew them. You knew the different people on the team that you worked with by the nickname. Like, it was just a fun thing. They had fun meetings. It was enjoyable to go to and to work with. They got work done, but they did it in an enjoyable way. And then it changed hands. They got bought out and someone else took it over. It was a different company culture that kind of approached things a little bit differently. The value is still there. They're still incredibly helpful, but the way they interact is not the same. And there's times where we're like, wow, I kind of miss those days where we had meetings like that, or we would have these experiences with them. It's a big deal. And for the employee that's in that environment all day, the environment in which you work if you're going to spend that much time working with people, right, you want a place where people can actually enjoy it.
And people like to hear and know they're part of something. If you think you know all the answers, we were talking, the last podcast about the dumb tax and not seeking out other guidance. Well, sometimes the guidance is internal. Sometimes these people that are handling these problems see situations and opportunities. Sometimes you read stories about successful businesses, and it was a tip or something brought from internal inside the business that led to that next level. It's
funny you say that. I just finished reading about a month ago, Measure What Matters by John Doerr. So he goes in and looks at the objectives and key results, OKRs, that companies like Google, Microsoft, Bono and his foundation, all kinds of other nonprofits and businesses, huge businesses, have used to grow their companies. And he's talking about the times where he would go into a company and you had the opportunity to learn from some of the people that would just, you may not even recognize what understanding of what happens in these different opportunities in the different departments of the business would know. But if you took the time to listen to them and understand how their teams interact with other teams and what they know that could help solve those problems, it's a big deal. And that's an incredible opportunity to recognize your own limitations, recognize what other people know, and value their contributions. Huge.
I agree.
Number 4. So we've talked about number 1, clear mission and meaningful work. Number 2, understand your employees. Number 3, have a good company culture, address those concerns there. And number 4, bonuses and incentives. So we're getting into the ones that could be monetary, could also have other kind of non-monetary impact. We'll give an example of one that we use in our company in just a little bit. But this is a way to both incentivize work, right? So maybe reaching a goal. If the team reaches a certain goal, then everyone gets to participate in some of those profits. We see that as a common incentive in many companies. Other types of incentives out there that you can tailor to fit your specific business model. It doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all. Well, this business does it this way, so we have to apply it exactly the same way. You have the ability to flexibly implement some of these things to incentivize the type of results, the type of behavior that you want to reward in your company. And that can be something that is helpful to retain top talent.
You try to pay them a decent salary, a living wage, something above and beyond, so they can have a great life. But of course, it's within reason in your own industry. I like rewarding people for success. We're always pushing forward. Whatever we did in business, whatever the value of our business is, we are always pushing forward. We're trying to extend and create more value, and rewarding people for success. People that are really looking to build something will go out there and go beyond, make an extra phone call, come up with a better game plan to bring it to the team and creating a value. And you, the business owner, rewarding. If you don't reward them, somebody else will, right? And sometimes it's monetary. It's a quarterly bonus, year-end bonuses. I don't like bonuses that are expected, that whatever happens, they're going to get a bonus. You can get into that routine of Christmas bonuses. We always get this or we give that. Okay, I got that. I like
it's more like a gift than
I got it.
than an incentive.
You know, I started because I work a lot of hours and sometimes 10, 12 hours a day. Used to work to 9 and 10 o'clock at night for decades. But I would take Friday afternoons off. When I say take it off, close the office at 3 o'clock, a couple hours early. And since I liked it, my employees liked it. And then just recently, just this summer, we started closing. Hey, if you get all your work done, if everything's looking good, I will close the doors at 1 o'clock on Friday for the summertime. Well, they love it. The employees love it. Paying them the same wage. If the work gets done, if I notice that things are fading off, we'll have to go back to, working longer. And so they know that. But it's little things like that, you keep them in mind. Taking some extra time off at a holiday. July 4th coming up is on a
Thursday.
Thursday. Closing the office on a Friday. I'm becoming like France. I'm joking. I used to mock those people. Now I kind of like it. And sometimes it means a lot if the numbers are where they need to be. If we're getting our work done, reward them sometimes with time, sometimes with money, sometimes it's other things that you could do as well. Recognition is a big thing. People
Absolutely.
like to be acknowledged for their hard work, and that goes a long way.
Well, and that goes back to the company culture as well. It may not always be a financial incentive, but there could be something where you're recognizing them for a contribution. I was reading Unreasonable Hospitality, a book by one of the co-owners of what was the #1 restaurant in the world, 11 Madison Park in New York. And they talked about in their team meetings, they would take the time to recognize someone who went out of their way to provide unreasonable hospitality to one of their guests that evening, or their prior evening. And that would become what they called a legend in their business, and something that they would share and reward and recognize going forward. And I just think of that as an awesome opportunity to not only call them out for something that is positive and not just be known as, well, you only talk to me if I did something wrong and correct me, but to recognize the good side of it. And at the same time, you're encouraging others to follow that behavior as well. It's a positive culture.
It's a form of compensation.
Yeah.
And people, if you don't compensate them by rewarding them, acknowledging them, somebody else will.
Well, and it goes back to that connecting what they do to the mission of the company. When you recognize what they're doing, you're showing how they're adding value in those ways. And that's, again, tying it back into the work.
Let me mention one other thing. Right now, with inflation raging out there, depending on when you hear this podcast, maybe several years down the road, hopefully inflation's gone by then. But inflation right now is forcing a lot of people to unretire. Baby boomers are going back to work, and sometimes in the related field they were in, and sometimes in other situations. Sometimes, and I tell them all the time, and they ask, who is going to hire me? Employers aren't looking for you to be here for 30 years. They're looking for somebody to be here for the next 30 days or 30 months or whatever it might be. My point to you, business owners, you might be looking at a baby boomer situation where they're filling the gap, maybe an unrelated field that they come in. Don't discount these because they have a work ethic. And so it may be somebody that's only there for 6 months or maybe 6 years, who knows, maybe even longer. But there's opportunities out there. Inflation is causing people to go back to work and that don't discount that lead source right there for an employee that might give you what you need right now in this trying time of trying to fill slots and make sure you got enough people to get. I could only grow. I hear it all the time. I could grow, but I don't have the people. I can't find the people. So there's opportunities out there for you.
That's a good point that a lot of people haven't considered, but they should. And the last one, I told you, stick around for number 5. It'll be worth it. Employee benefits with flexible solutions for you. So oftentimes there are certain employee benefits that if you offer them to one employee, right, then it's kind of you've opened the door, you have to offer it to all of them. And that can be a significant cost, and it may deter you from wanting to make that decision. But there are some flexible options, particularly for some of your key employees, that give you the opportunity to do it kind of tailored individually to them. How does that, in the work that you've done with business owners, how have you seen that help them keep the top employees and also recognize them for their interest and the contributions that they've made, and at the same time compensating them in some way?
People that work for companies that they're rarity, but now, I mean, if they have been at a job like IBM back in the day, and you had a pension and you had to be there for 20 years and you've been there for 12 and the employer is driving you nuts, but you wouldn't leave because you had that handcuff, that pension, that golden bonus out there in the front. So it kept you connected to the business. So you didn't have employee turnover like you had right now. Military still has it in some cases where people are close to retirement. I've got 12 years in, I got another 8, or I've got 15, 17 years, so I got to work for another 5 or 3 years to get my pension. Well, there's not the pension. Many of you do not have the ability in the private sector to do that any longer. And in 401k, what Adam said, what you do for one, you typically got to do for all. But there are plans out there, executive bonus plans, golden handcuffs, and other strategies that you can set up and reward key people to retain them. You can bonus them some money, and if they hang around for, you name the period of time, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it might be, if they hang around, they get this pot of money that the company set aside. There are programs like that. If they leave before that time, then you get your money back, and hey, it stays within the company. But there are things that you can do beyond the typical things to attract, retain, bonus people out there and kind of cuff them. There's employees that would hurt your business if they left and went to work for a competitor, perhaps. Maybe they took some of your secrets and they went down the street and they started their own business. Great. Now they know all your trade secrets and they know your client base. And if you don't have things set up and motivate them to stay in there, there's things like that really, we're talking about investments that pay off. We need to quit thinking from an expense. Well, what's this going to cost me? Okay. Well, what's the investment? If I make an investment of $5,000, but I retain this key employee that I don't have to keep constantly turning over and training somebody new.
Onboarding someone else.
That's an expense, right? But there are things like executive bonus plans, golden handcuffs, and other things that you can do and pick off 1 or 2 people and or however many in your business to make sure that they stay within the business and all these things. And there's even more, but these were just some of the ones. It is not that difficult if you have the right plan out there, and we can help you. Our team can help you recruit and set up programs to retain key employees, because if you're constantly replacing employees, it's hard to grow. It's hard sometimes even to maintain yourselves from prior. I've seen it in many businesses, and it's even more now that with inflation, because people leave you. If there's not all these things that we mentioned, they'll leave you. If somebody gives them another quarter an hour, they'll go down the street and work for somebody else. So you better take into account your vision, the culture, and benefits and rewarding and acknowledgments of their successes. And there's so many things out there, but it's not that complicated, Adam.
So while these are not the only ways, the only things to consider for retaining top talent, 5 of the key ones are, as we said, number 1, clear mission and meaningful work, tying what they do to why it matters. Number 2, understand your employees. Number 3, the company culture. Number 4, bonuses and incentives. And number 5, employee benefits with flexible solutions for you. These are great options to get you started. We'd love to be able to connect with you. Scale2Sell.com/discovery to talk about your specific situation and figure out how our team can help you understand where your business is at and how you can move forward with whether you're looking to scale or exit in the short term. We'd love to be able to help you out and be able to make that happen so that you can win at work and life. If you like this episode and want to hear more from Scale to Sell, please follow the show on your favorite podcast platform of choice so that you never miss an episode. As a new and growing podcast, rating and reviewing the podcast would be incredibly helpful so that so many entrepreneurs like you can find our content and join our growing community of business owners. And remember, if you haven't signed up for the Business Builder Thursday weekly guide, check out Scale2Sell.com and make sure you sign up for that. Until next time, keep scaling.